Okay. All right. So there is. Let's say I just want to make sure that I'm not. Yeah, this is the one I haven't done before. Okay. So PARscoring, subjective aspects and objective aspects. And the objective bit is the objective aspects of the part we want to measure. Make measurements on. So we're going to do those first. So contact points, overjet and overbite. Oh, sorry, contact points, overjet and open bite. Overbite, centerline displacement. Whilst they're objective, they're kind of visually objective, really, aren't they? So under analysis, we've got three icons here that we're going to use. We're going to use analysis objects. We're going to use overbite, overjet, and we're going to use questionnaires. So first of all, we'll go into analysis objects. So we click on that, and from our list of customized analysis objects, we'll click on PARscore or ESM Par. So the software is calling up the contact point 1, 3, M. So quadrant 1, tooth number 3, M for mesial. So we'll select the point, and these little tags up here. So we then select the next contact point. Now, the next contact point is so close to the first one that the software thinks we're actually trying to click and drag that first one out of the way. So in that situation, we hit the Alt key, and when we hit Alt, that allows us to select the point that's in close proximity. To be honest with you, just for handiness sake, I just keep holding Alt all the time and just work my way around the arch. And that was an interesting one. Look at that. I hit the point and it came down here. It's still only measuring 0.23 of a millimeter, so it's not wrong. But okay, so I've got a little bit carried away there. I'll just click and drag that back to where it should be. Okay, and then here, here, and here, and then we move down to the lower arch.
So this is actually a program that asks you in the correct order for the different measurements.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. So we're doing, well, really what we're doing is we're selecting the landmarks, and the software then knows that it needs to record the distance between each landmark. So that list of landmarks is presented here. So if it was a situation perhaps where there was a tooth missing,
yeah,
you want to then make sure that you consider that, and let's say if this lateral was missing, or if the canine was missing, well, we want to miss out on the mesial point here and the distal point here. So we just want to make sure that when we get to that point, which is quadrant 3, tooth number 3, so 3M, that we would uncheck that point, and we'd manually just jump onto the next available point, which is quadrant 3, tooth number 2, M. So that point doesn't exist. That tooth doesn't exist, so therefore we don't select that point, and therefore we don't bother selecting that contact point either. So we would jump straight through to the next one and then continue on from there.
How would I record an impaction? Because that's usually 5 points, isn't it, for an impaction?
Yes. I think we have an option in the questionnaire that we would check the box for an impacted tooth.
Okay.
Yeah, that's it. So once we've selected all those points, then we can just close that window out. The next step is to go into overjet and overbite, this icon here in the middle of analysis. And what we're presented with then is the 4 incisors. And this is kind of based on the ABO standard, which requires that you measure the overjet and overbite at each of the 4 incisors. But we don't need to go that far. But what I tend to do is look at the model from the front, tilt it backwards, and try and figure out, well, if we were placing a ruler in here, where would the ruler stop and where would we take a reading from? It's the best way to kind of move from manual PARscoring to digital PARscoring. So the chances are we'd probably be looking at a reading like that. So we'll highlight the central incisor, and that plane, you'll notice that the angle of that plane is kind of changing with the arch. And then really click on a point, that's where the ruler would stop, and that's where we take the reading from. Now those 2 points do not need to be on the same plane.
Okay.
If it's off plane, the software projects it back onto that plane. So that works well for us. So it then records the horizontal distance between the 2 points. Now we might also like to consider then the next incisor, again pretty much there and there, and we're getting a slightly larger value. Okay, now the question is always around, well, would you be, if you were using a plastic ruler, would the plastic ruler get in that far in order to get us that measurement? The difference between the two measurements is it's 0.82 and 2.6. Now, thankfully, they fall within the same category anyway. They're both scoring a 0, but you know that could be the difference between a 0 and a 1, or a 1 and a 2. So we're happy with that. If there was an open bite, let's just view the models from the front there. If there was an open bite, we would then check on this box here for overbite. This is giving us a vertical measurement. Okay, now it's we wouldn't even bother worrying about it in this case. But if it was an open bite, let's say that's we want to measure the distance between that point there, and let's hide the upper model. On the right hand side we can hide and show our models, and then we select that point there, and then the software tells us it's 0.66. There's a 0.66 millimeter vertical difference between those two. Okay, so
yeah,
we know it's nothing, and we know it's nothing by looking at it. We know there's an overjet rather than an open bite, really. Sorry, it's an overbite rather than an open bite. But we've recorded that information, that's there and locked in for us. So we've done all our measurements, and then we go into the questionnaire. And once the questionnaire is presented, and just just reduce the size of it a little bit, we're going to go through each one of these questions one by one. So the upper right, 3 to 2 contact points. The software shows us the points here. It gives us the value, which is exactly 1 millimeter, and then we can check off the value. There we go. If it's an impacted tooth, we can select it here.
Perfect. Yeah.
Okay. And then we can click on N for next. It jumps through to the next pair of teeth, 3.09, 0.066, 2.21, 1.47, 0.95, 2.5, 1.63, 1.79, 0.49, giving us a score of 0. And then looking at the buccal occlusion on the left hand side, looking for the interdigitation, less than half a unit. Vertical open bite, so open bite is classed by about 2 millimeters, isn't it?
2 teeth at 2 millimeters each, yeah.
Okay, so that's, we certainly consider that to be 2 millimeters, and it's kind of touch and go. What would you say there? Would you give it?
I wouldn't give that a vertical, no.
Okay. And then cross bite.
You got 2 teeth in cross bite, pretty much.
And then on this side, no open bite, cross bite again 2. Overjet, then the values we've measured at the 2 different incisors are presented here.
Right.
You know, it's up to yourself then which one you're going to go with. It doesn't make a difference, but 2.6 is the distance from that point there to that point there, which is a real overjet, but it's not something that you would measure with a ruler. So maybe 0.82. But so anyway, we've got they both fall within the category of 0 to 3 anyway, so it's not a consideration. Crossbite, we do have a single tooth in crossbite, anterior crossbite. Open bite, we don't really have an open bite, but if we classed that as being an open bite, the value is presented to us there that we've measured, and so anyway, it's less than. We'll say it's no open bite because it's more of an overbite anyway, but we'd select the appropriate value then. Overbite, again, it's nominal, so it's less than or equal to 1/3 coverage. If it was more coverage, we could go into the transparency mode, then the bottom right hand side of the screen, and we can see the lower incisors, and we can see how much coverage is there.
Yeah.
And then we'll come out of that and go into centerline assessment, and we're looking at the centerline. So there's a centerline of the uppers, centerline, centerline of the lowers. Oh wow, that's an outbreak.
That's a 2.
Yeah, so it's graded in half, and then our summary is presented there. Okay, so we're getting a weighted total of 31, and we hit OK. And I should have set this up in the background. I'll do it right now in a moment. But we've got then a report function. We can click on report. I'll create it now in a moment. We'll have an option here for PAR report, and it will present all that information on a single page.
Fantastic. Thank you very much.
No problem. So it's nice and simple. What we've also got